Goto este una dintre cele mai cunoscute violoniste ale lumii, care are o mare putere de transmitere a ceea ce face, chiar dacă este în postura de artist, profesor sau de activist. Puțină lume știe că în spatele forței interioare cu care cântă stă un om cu o conduită morală frumoasă și un suflet caritabil. Midori își poartă muzica prin locuri îndepărtate ale lumii și oferă din timpul ei celor în nevoie în speranța unui trai mai ușor.
Do you remember your first time when you touched the violin?
I started to play the violin supposedly at 4 years old, but I'm sure the first time I touched the instrument, the violin, I'm sure that was earlier. I just don't remember anything about it.
Who are the musicians who inspired you in your career?
I think my mother remains to be the greatest inspiration of all. But of course it's inside the family. So I should say outside the family, my great mentor was Isaac Stern.
Do you have a favorite musician now?
I admire so many of my colleagues, my older colleagues, my younger colleagues, and of course all the wonderful world of the recordings of the violinists I was never able to meet in person, singers, conductors, pianists. The world is now so rich with such diverse musicians and artists, and I'm inspired, by many people, and not just from music actually, but I'm inspired very much from the everyday.
You said not from music necessarily, but from where?
I usually find my inspirations in the everyday. I don't necessarily, of course I get inspired from different paintings or other art forms or a beautiful scenery or just a sound that I might hear in the wild, in the nature. But it doesn't also have to be something very special that others might consider as something very particular or out of ordinary. It could just be something that I feel in the moment, or it could be something just from what I'm reading, or it could just be the smell of the air.
You play a Guarneri violin, am I right? Mm-hmm. Can you tell us the history, the story about this instrument?
My violin was made in 1734 by Guarneri Staujesu, and it's also known as the ex-Huberman, precisely because it was also played by Bronislaw Huberman. It was the main performing instrument, main performing violin for Ruggiero Ricci for many years. Most of the recordings he made were on this particular violin. Was also played at one point by Michael Rabin. I played on it now for over 20 years. And this violin comes with me everywhere. It goes to concert halls, it goes to the mountains, it goes to developing regions of the world, it goes to hospital rooms, it goes to orphanages, it goes to many places. It goes to the United Nations headquarters, and it really goes to many places, to temples, churches, everywhere. And it really feels that this is my partner. The violin inspires me also. We're talking about inspirations, of course, the sound. But then this violin sounds very different with a different bow. And then when that change happens, of course I'm inspired. And the violin is a very living thing. It reacts to weather. It really reacts to really what's going on in the world, and it has jet lag, I think. And so I feel this violin just like I really feel how my body is changing.
I saw you in an interview saying to a student that the sound of the violin comes from inside of that person. It's not only the sound of the violin.
Yes, it's a partnership. It's a person that plays it, it's the soul of the person, and it's the soul of the violin. And of course, violin has so much history. And for me, this is always so amazing when I think about my violin, how long with some pieces, for example, for how long my violin has known these pieces. Much longer than I have. And it has played many more times than I have. Whether it's a Tchaikovsky concerto, the Beethoven concerto, the Brahms concerto, and Mendelssohn, whatever it is. And yes, I get to play these pieces quite a lot, but this violin has played it even more often.
After all those years in concerts, on stage, in teaching, winning prizes, do you have emotions when you get up on the stage?
Every time I actually walk out on stage, this hasn't changed, and maybe it's gotten even more so. The pleasure of being on stage, the excitement of making music, performing, to be completely involved in music. This is something that has only gotten better, I think. I was always excited to be on stage, but as I got older and as I got more experience, I think that it's become not just exciting, but of course more meaningful.
What are the things that a young artist has to give up to have an international career like yours?
Well, I think everyone's different. Every young artist is different. Every young artist comes with different interests, with different personalities, with different attributes. And so it's very difficult to say, I think, if one has to even give up anything. I don't think of it as giving up. I feel that because I started very young as a performer, I had a great advantage of being surrounded and to be inspired by great musicians, great artists, from a very young age. And to have had this experience, I also recognize now in retrospect how educational it was and how important this was. And so I think it's really how you want to look at it. You can decide to see something negative, or you can also decide to see something very positive. I think in the end it balances.
Mm-hmm. How important do you think is the teacher in the life of a young student, of a young musician for his career?
I think a combination of a teacher, a support that comes from those around you, those that are very close to you, maybe with mentors also. I think it's really, everything is about a combination in the right balance. And so it's not just one person alone. It's not just the teacher, it's not just the mentor, it's not just a close friend or a family. But in combination, I think it is very important to have this balance.
In your career, at one moment you stopped and you begin to learn psychology. Why?
I think it would be wrong to say that I actually stopped playing. I actually went to university as I performed. So it took me a little bit longer than 4 years to complete my first degree. And it took me a long time to do my second degree because my thesis took took a long time, and I took a long time doing it. But yes, I was studying psychology, I was studying gender studies, and I was also performing and running different organizations. And so I started university just thinking that I wanted to really explore and to try to expand more horizons. And through taking different courses and the fundamental courses, the core courses,
I know you have a special project, Midori and Friends.
I have been involved in community engagement, outreach, or social projects, as however you like to call it, for a number of years now. I formally started my activities in this area about 30 years ago. And first came my first organization, Midori and Friends. Then came music sharing and Partners in Performance. I also do other projects that are not established as a nonprofit, but simple projects that I'm committed to doing every year, such as a youth orchestra project that I run called the Orchestral Residencies Program. And most of my projects are to bring music and to bring people together through music. Most of it is not about supporting already established musicians or young artists, but it's to bring music, to share music with populations that may not have had so much access to the arts, and to give this grassroots sort of push for becoming more conscious about culture, about the arts.
Is it difficult what you are doing?
I think I've learned so much through the work of these nonprofit organizations, whether it's music sharing or Midori and Friends or the orchestral programs. And when I meet also the people who support the youth orchestras and the students in these programs, I'm very inspired. Or I go to developing regions. I go to refugee camps, and I see the people, of course, living there, but also people who are actually sharing themselves to support their work, to support them. I'm always very, very invigorated as a result, and to be able to talk to them and to bring music, to share the music, even when there are no shared spoken language, that through music, that there is this communication that can take place. And then also to take what I experience and to express what I've seen in different contexts afterwards, and to advocate for the people that I've met, or for their causes. For me, this is very important, and it's a very important part of my work.
So music is like a language.
I think that music is something that can bring people together. It can do many, many different things, I think. Has a potential, I think, to excite people, to console, to open up their imaginations, to motivate, to heal. I think it really has many possibilities. And I think that to keep this music available to them, and to really have that rapport, well, certainly it's something that has changed me very much. Has changed my outlook on life and the world. And of course, I'm so inspired always from what I experience. but it's a pleasure for me, it's an honor for me to be able to share my experiences with others. I do have a program in which I'm bringing younger musicians to share in this experience with me in bringing and sharing the music. So I do a quartet program where young musicians actually audition to participate, and we've gone to many different countries. Last year we visited Vietnam. Prior, I've gone to Myanmar or Laos. This December I'm going to Cambodia, and the experience of being together, of sharing the music and of visiting these areas and these institutions, playing by somebody who may be in the last 5 hours of his or her life, or playing for children who may not have had much happiness in their lives, or in schools where they're studying to actually open their futures, and it's just a very, very exciting thing to do.
So you don't teach only violin, but humanity lessons also.
I think in some instances when we go and perform and play and engage, I think of it as really social work. It's not musical work per se, but it's social work in which we connect as human beings. Music helps us do that, but we connect. It's not introducing the music to the people only, but it's much more importantly connecting from human being to another human being, and in our case, music helps us do that.
Do you like Enescu?
I very much enjoyed playing this third sonata that Enescu wrote, but there are many others that he wrote as well, many, not just violin works, and really fascinating sounds that I hear in his music.
Yes, yes. Thank you for playing Enescu in Enescu's festival. What do you think about this festival? Do you think this could change the life of a city, the life indeed for humans who live here?
This festival has been going on, and it's certainly considered to be one of the most important music festivals in the world. And to be here, and also not just to play my concert, but to go to other concerts, and to see my colleagues here, it's so nice. I've enjoyed being here, and it's very special. You have so many concerts going on, it's amazing.
Do you have time for you?
I do many different things in my free time. I like to read very much. I cook also quite a bit, but only when I'm at home, really. And but reading is really, and also just, I'm so curious about everything. And when something strikes me as something unusual, or I feel like I want to know more, of course I read about it immediately. And so I'm always very curious, and particularly history I quite enjoy.
After all these concerts, all the stages you have been, all the prizes you have won, what do you think is the most important thing in life as a human being?
As a human being, okay. Well, for me, the question of how to live right, the question of how to get rid of your vices, I think for me it's very important. It's something that's always in my mind.
Can you tell me what is the most important prize for you in your career?
I think as a teacher, the happiness comes when I see my students being productive, being honest with themselves, also to be enjoying their lives, and being good citizens. And for me, this is something that gives me great pleasure. I think when I play, perform, to be at one with music on stage, of course, is a wonderful feeling. I think also other pleasures, family, home, and just being by myself, thinking about all the wonderful things that one could engage in, and actually becoming engaged in those activities. It's a wonderful, I think, life that I was able to experience up until now. And I want to share this, of course. And I feel that the fact that I'm able to speak, that I have a voice, is something so important and such a privilege that I have in a way, which really shouldn't be a privilege for anyone and for everyone. You know, should really be. We need to create a world where we all are responsible, and we also can speak, and we can all participate in this world. And so it's not just to receive, but it's also to participate, to be responsible. I think this is very important.